Hello, I'm Annie and I'm here in the Pyro Theater and I have Ridge here to help me today. We are going to put together the rest of this assembly, which is the Pyro Tower. So down here we have the pedestal base. If you need assistance with the pedestal base and putting it together, head back to our website, proudpyro.com, and you can review that video and it'll help you through each step and get you on the way to doing the Pyro Tower. Now I have to admit, the first thing I need to say is that I have cooked or previously have cooked almost exclusively on a Pyro Tower for 2 years. Yeah, I've never put one together. So bear with us. I'm gonna go ahead and read through the directions as any first-time user should, and Ridge is gonna help assemble it. The instructions and the Pyro Tower is intended to be assembled with 2 people, but it is fairly easy to do. However, for support, we want to make sure that you have another person to hold a piece if needed during the process. When you first start, make sure you check all hardware listed in the first couple pages here and the parts list to make sure you have every part, and also become familiar with which parts are what, like front and back side panels, and also the base, and make sure you know what to grab when you're going through the instructions. And what we're doing now is he's gonna work on threading the base piece. So there are 6 carriage bolts. Carriage bolts have a dome top. They are not hexagon in shape, they have the flat dome top that need to be positioned through the bottom of the base prior to assembling the tower. To do so, simply turn the base on its side and slide the carriage bolts through the square holes and thread a hex nut 1/4 of the way down to prevent the bolt from falling through as you tip the base back to the ground. Once you have positioned the base right side up on the flat and level ground, you can remove the hex nuts from the carriage bolts. Okay, so we are actually going to be assembling this on top of the pedestal. So we're gonna set it, leave the nuts on there, and we're gonna set it on top of the pedestal stand. And we'll work with removing the nuts as we go along and inserting the side panels. What we have is the same tab and slot design that is used throughout the entire Pyro Tower assembly. And we will move on next to doing the sides. So you're gonna prepare a side pieces for assembly. The shoulder tabs must be inserted into the bottom slots of the Pyro Tower prior to assembly on the base. 2 shoulder tabs are used on the side panels, and 1 shoulder tab is used at the front and rear panels. So he's gonna go ahead and put those bottom tabs on there. Those bottom tabs are going to meet up directly with the holes that are, the rectangle holes that are on the top here. And the tabs that he slid in are going to meet with the screws. So he's unscrewed that carriage bolt, threaded it through the tab, and then he's going to put the nut back on there. And just kind of finger tighten at this point because we will be adding some washers in a little bit here. But right now we're going to get the actual side panels on there before we do that. Okay, so we will need to do the same thing for the front and the back panels as well. Before moving on though, we're going to go ahead and add the washers to these bolts. The washer assembly or portion goes, because it's now stabilized and it's not going to slip off and go anywhere. We're going to add a lock washer and a zinc lock washer and a washer that goes underneath that nut, please. And then we'll do the front and back panels. You can go ahead, if you feel that you are able, to go ahead and add the lock washer and washer before this step as you're tightening the bolt down the first time. However, it's kind of safer to go ahead and have it secured in there, and it is pretty secure once you get it into the slots that are built into the base. But it does help to just go ahead and have all the nuts on there ready to go. And Ridge is being proactive in setting each washer out for each station to make sure we have all the parts ready, and that way he can just simply slide them on there and go through. And again, he's putting a lock washer on, a washer, and then the nut. I also want to note that if you have not purchased an Ultimate kit that comes with a pedestal or just the pedestal, we do instruct people to set it on the ground. However, it is easier if you have a couple of 2x4s to set the base on, and then you can complete assembly so that it's elevated off the ground a little bit and you can access all of the screws, carriage bolts much easier. If you do have the pedestal base, we are showing it as a standard way to put it together on top of the pedestal base, but I have also been informed that it's easier if you kind of turn it at a 90-degree angle, and then you'll rotate it once you have completed construction. Okay, so we've completed both side panels. Each carriage bolt is threaded, and on the inside we have the washer, lock washer, and nut to secure that. each side panel. But now we need to start doing the front and back panel. And the front and back panel are going to be assembled just in the same way as we're going to insert into the slots on the top or in the front. And then there is one spot for a carriage bolt that is already threaded in there. And you'll see these tabs on the side of the front piece, which we're going to kind of slide into place once it clicks in. And we can get them to match up. There we go. Give it a little, kind of wiggle it a little bit here and there. But we'll need to do the same thing for the back piece. So if you don't necessarily get the front tabs in here the first time, don't worry about it, but it is self-supporting at this point. But we do need to kind of loosen these pieces and get the back pieces in as well. So it's gonna be kind of a little wiggling to get them to each spot, but once they are in each spot, it'll be completely self-supporting and you just need to support it with all the tabs necessary to do so. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the back panel, and he's gonna go ahead and slide it into the bottom slots. And I'm going to have to separate this a little bit. I'm going to take off this side here so that you can kind of slide that in over there. There you go. We're just going to go through all the bolts and tighten up anything that might still be a little loose, because all he did was finger tighten the first time around, but he's going to go ahead and tighten all that to secure it even better. At this point it is self-supporting, which is awesome because then you can just work a little bit quicker. But we're going to go ahead and let him finish that up, and then we'll come back and insert all the rest of the tabs into the slots that are here and add more support. Once you've finished inserting all your tabs and bolts, then go through and go ahead and tighten them. Ridge is using a 7/16 socket to go ahead and tighten all of those nuts. Okay, so we have most of the tower all up and ready to go. It looks fantastic and it was really pretty quick. So that was great, and it was easy to do. I'm not great at putting things together, so I'm glad that we got this far. The next step is to put in the shelf that you're going to use. We have a flat shelf that is removable that can go in there. You would then set up your firewood rack on top of there if you're going to start a fire instead of cooking or smoking or grilling inside of it. But we are setting up the ultimate kit as if we are going to be grilling or charcoal grilling, so we want to show that. So instead of putting that flat removable shelf in, we're going to go ahead and put in the grill shelf and show how that can be done. Okay, so this is the grill insert. And you can see on the top we have two solid pieces built onto the grill insert, and then we have one that has a hole here. On the back of the tower, there's two slots for these solid pieces to fit into, and then there's the angled piece that it fits over with this spot here. In order to insert this piece, you have to go through the bottom space, which is larger, and you're going to angle it in. And then bring the top up and then pull it all the way forward as far as it'll go, and then slide it back. That worked great. That was awesome. Fantastic. That was easy enough. We're gonna go ahead and grab the charcoal basket. This is the charcoal basket. On the charcoal basket here, this top part would hold your charcoal, and the bottom is to catch the ash and also to put any paper in order to start the coals and get them going and get them hot. And that just slides right underneath the grill, right in the bottom part. There you go. This tower is pretty much ready to go. So he's assembling the door. It has the same tab and slot design. It'll slide through the holes on the door, and then you'll just secure it with the bolts. There are instructions for that inside. It's pretty self-explanatory. As you can see, he tilted that to the side here, inserted it in, and then he will put those on. All right, so Ridge completed the door, which you can tell we have the thermometer in here, and then he attached the handles to the back, and this will just slide on to the front into the tabs that we have there, and then it seals that for cooking, so you can hold in all that heat like an oven. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and add the louvers, so we have to take that part off and set it down to the side. He's inserting the bolts and the washer into the little slide spot on the louver. And I can grab it from the top to help you out there to hold it. Now he's gonna secure this louver into place with a nut that is a spacer. This nut is not going to screw on tightly. It just allows there to be space between the adjusting handle here and the edge of the tower. All right, so if we secure this in place, if we didn't want those louvers to close, you would then tighten this here. But if you do want them to close, you would open it and loosen that a little bit, lift it up, and then tighten it again. And now you're limiting the amount of oxygen that is supplied to the fire or the burning coals or whatever you're using to cook with. The last piece that we need to put on to properly cook with this awesome pyro tower is the vent doors. And the vent doors are right over there, Ridge, if you want to grab them for me. Again, you'll have to assemble some handles so they will look similar to the design of the door with the thermometer in it. We're going to assemble the handles, and then this will set on the bottom. These vent doors, I'll show you what they do in a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and let Ridge assemble that, and then I will come back. Okay, so Ridge finished our vent door down here, and what this does is it moderates how much oxygen is being supplied to the coals, to the wood, whatever you're using to actually cook your food, or if you're just burning. But you can turn them, and you can either close them almost all the way off, and that will then bring your temperature inside the tower a lot lower. Or if you open them and allow more oxygen to flow in, then your fire will get hotter and you'll have a higher temperature. Sometimes you just want to kind of keep it where it is, and you would close them about halfway, and the same thing, you would close the louvers halfway. If you're smoking and you want a low temperature and you want a lot of smoke to stay in, you would then, loosen this, lift that up, and close these almost all the way, if not all the way, because the top will allow smoke to come out and oxygen. And then you would close these almost all the way, just enough to keep that fire going and create smoke, but not to get it too hot to where it's going to burn the food. This is a great tool for cooking. As I said, I've cooked with it a lot, but not just that, it's an awesome feature piece for any yard or any landscape. So if you don't want to use it for cooking, you're welcome to just go ahead and take this off, and you'll switch that inside plate which comes out and put your flat plate in there, and then you'll burn wood in there if that's what you prefer to do. And then on the bottom, instead of burning charcoal, you'll leave this open and you can store some wood down here. You could just leave this open. You can put extra wood pieces in there if you need to, but that flat piece will just go right here and prevent any ash or anything falling on top of that. If you want to preserve the look of your tower as is, now we hand oil all of our parts before they come to you. So if you want to preserve it, you need to reapply oil after every use. And we also offer covers for every single one of our products. Again, if you're applying oil, make sure you allow it to cool down enough before you are actually applying that oil to the outside of it, or wherever you can get to apply the oil, to prevent from any kind of water and any kind of patina actually occurring. If you do get a little bit of some rust and patina occurring in spots that you don't want, just simply use a steel wool pad, brush it off, and wipe it off as much as possible. Apply some oil, go ahead and burn in it. That oil will start to actually sink into and absorb into the steel, and you'll preserve that look the entire time. And I hope that you really enjoy this awesome piece. It's one of my favorite products that we have ever made, and I'm glad I actually learned how to put it together today. So thank you very much.